Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Local Living Tri-City. I'm Liz, your host, and I appreciate you spending time with us today. Be sure to join us for part 2 of this series where we'll be diving into some critical topics that impact our local community. Safety, we'll look at the various initiatives and resources in place to keep us all safe. Crime, and we'll analyze the recent trends and discuss what's being done to address them. And property taxes. We'll break down how those property taxes are determined and what they mean for you as a homeowner and a business owner. Welcome to Local Living Tri-City, your go-to podcast for exploring the vibrant communities of Temecula, Murrieta, and Menifee. Join me, Liz Jones, as we dive into real estate insights and local business stories, bringing you closer to the heart of our Tri-City area. Let's get started with today's episode. If you're talking about the east-west, that's local. So that's a city's concerns. So the number of cars that hit the road, the condition of the roads, the potholes that hit the roads, the backup at the lights, the timing of the lights, that's all set up and run by the city. And it's monitored every day. And then in addition to that, then you've got safety, public safety concerning all those things. Parks are all controlled by the city. It's pretty amazing. So our transportation, most of our folks are coming from San Diego right now. We've got a fare coming north. So you might see at the 91 interchange, Corona, which is a city we haven't talked about. But let's say if we are at the 91 freeway, Corona, Riverside, that area, there's a small percentage of people coming down this way. We've got a huge percentage of people going from San Diego County, North County, up to Temecula. And that's where I did. That was my commute when I first came here. I actually drove 40 minutes, but I didn't really have a slowdown at that time. That's 2001. I didn't really have a slowdown. Right now, people are getting a slowdown. So picture this. Going down to San Diego in the morning is a tough ride. It's an hour and 15 minutes minimum. And that doesn't matter where you are in San Diego. If you're far down San Diego, way San Diego, you're going to have a 2-hour drive. And that's just the way it is. And coming back home on a Friday, slow, really slow, especially when you hit Temecula. So I'm being really upfront and honest with you. We're seeing traffic become a real issue. So I know the cities are working on it. I know the Caltrans is working on it. It is probably not going to solve itself over the weekend, and it's worth considering. But a lot of people are working in place. And as you do that, or as we bring in large corporations here, we have Abbott here, we have a lot of the car dealerships here, we have the City Innovation Center that we're bringing medical down, we have 4 hospitals here. As we bring more and more big business, we're having more jobs here for those people that serve, and that's going to keep people local. And the other consideration is because we are a bedroom community, we really do not have set up any kind of public transportation. I'm sure buses exist, right? Nobody's taking them. We don't have a train system. We don't have a subway system. We got Uber. We got, grandma needs to ride them, but just about everybody owns a car. I'm told that this area, per capita, per household, has more cars than any other area because everybody has one. A teenager has them. Mom has it. Dad has it. Sister, brother. So there's more cars per capita in this area than any place else. Now, if you're in the car business, that's a really good thing. If you're a mechanic, that's a really good thing. If you're changing oil, that's a really good thing, right? But for everybody who has got to get on the road every day, it's a tough one. Let's talk about safety and crime. I feel good here. Murrieta has its very own fire and police department. And because it's got its own fire and police, we get immediate action. I live next door to a police officer. If you're living in Canyon Lake, you've got a firefighter or a policeman right in the neighborhood with you. It's full of everybody. So our safety is good here. I'm not going to lie that I've gone to bed at night without locking my front door. I live in a gated community. I feel good about it. Now, is there crime? Sure. Have I heard clients talk about they have a public mailbox and the stuff was removed out of the mailbox? Yeah, sure. That does exist. But it's petty stuff. We're not having break-ins. We're not having stores broke into. This is a safe place. And I'll be honest with you, when there is something that's out of character here, people are in an uproar. We won't stand for it, right? We are a community that thrives on our safety for both our families, for our citizens. We thrive on that. So we band together to make sure it's safe. How about property taxes? So this is interesting about this area. So have you guys remembered hearing the term Melrose? Okay, nobody likes it. It's an ugly, ugly thing to talk about. But it's kind of has a new name. It's called special assessments. And a lot of people ask me, why do we have them and what are they? It's a good question. So in 2001, when we had a big building surge in our area, they used to call it Melrose. And so there would be signs and banners outside the new developments, no Melrose. So what that is a bond, okay? So as we develop a community, it impacts the local roads, it impacts the lights, the schools, the fire departments, the grocery stores, the road maintenance. It impacts the street lights. All of those things need to expand as the number of homes expands. And who's going to pay for that? Well, prior to 2001, the builders pay for that. It got built into their home package. So you paid $400,000 and it included the bonds that go into the future. They paid that. However, after 2001, the builders started to say, well, wait, prices are, got to go up. And rather than make prices go up, we're going to pass that on to a homeowner, which is exactly what they did. So if you start to find a house today that was built in 2001, you were going to pay probably the lowest Melrose. Those bonds are coming due right now. It's about 20 years, right? And some of them were 20-year bonds, some are 30-year bonds, and most likely they will drop off. However, if you go to a house that's built pre-2000, it has a 1.1% tax rate, flat tax rate, and it is not likely you're going to see any increases in that tax rate for a bond usage. Not unless they add a new school because they've outgrown the school. Then you might see something like that show up on your tax bill. It is mandatory. There's no working around it. And let's say you buy a new home, anything built 2010 and newer. You're looking at a 30-year bond. It will likely renew. And you're looking at 2% tax rate. So whatever the price you paid for your house, let's say it's $700,000, there's another $7,000 looking at you in a once-a-year tax that you have to pay. No getting around it. It's to pay for the schools, the roads. It's to pay for the lights. It's to pay for the teachers. It's to pay for the sewer systems, everything. And that's a bond. Now, I do know for a fact, I'm very proud of our city that a few years back when interest rates were so low that our city officials, those in accounting, saw old bonds and they looked at those old bonds and they said, we're paying 5% interest on these bonds. And if we were to refinance now, we would pay 3% and it would save each taxpayer like $200 a year or whatever it was. And sure enough, they did. Now, the only problem is they may not have shortened the term. So where we saw, when I first got into the industry, we saw bonds dropping off. Like we'd always say, well, you have Melrose, but there's only 3 more years left on the Melrose and it drops off. That does not happen anymore. There isn't a person I can call in the county to tell me when the bond expires. It is not likely going to expire. It not likely rolls over into a new bond. So you have to get used to that. So that's one thing that's different about this area than, say, Orange County or older San Diego County, because their roads are already built. Their houses are already built. They're not building any new houses in an area. So they're not getting that Melrose or that impact. Make sense? Okay. Let's talk about HOAs. Everybody hates an HOA. Not me. I don't hate an HOA. One, because I'm married to a man that manages HOAs. He's got about like 85 communities that we manage, so I hear it all, right? But I've been through communities without an HOA, and they look like it's a war zone. Your neighbor has a boat in the front yard, or he hasn't trimmed his yard in 6 months. And I can tell you that house after house, you'll have the one guy on the street that takes care of his house beautifully, and 27 that the weeds are up to here. And that's what an HOA does. It pulls in enough money to maintain the neighborhood, and it holds each owner with their hand over the fire saying, hey, I promise to keep my property well maintained and not let the value slip. Not everybody likes them. Half of my clients said I want something without an HOA, and I understand it's an extra expense. And most HOAs cover management fees, sometimes the gate fee if it's a gated community, or the guard, the streets that serve that community. It serves sometimes the community pools, the tennis courts, the gyms, the pickleball courts, the parks. So the common areas out front, the monument that they put flowers on. So there's a lot of things that makes your community look better. And if you looked at listening to our last podcast, you would see a dozen communities that we named. All of them have HOAs. And they do because the values are consistently growing because it's well cared for. And the places that don't have HOAs, they're just falling by the wayside. People are too busy to take care of their house. They don't have the money to take care of their house. And it shows. It shows on the outside and it shows on the inside. I've been through plenty. Let's talk about the climate in the area. So we are a hot, dry summer desert environment. So for 2, maybe 3 months, we're going to suffer. Last week, the temperature went up to about 112 degrees and it was hot at night. Okay. But that's not always the way. We're still California. So we will have 15 to 40 rain days in the winter. It's gorgeous. We will have the most incredible spring. And that's probably from February through June. It's gorgeous. And this year we had something different. We had the June gloom that normally the coast only gets. So for those of you not familiar with June gloom, we have the marine layer that hovers over the ocean that comes in the morning and just sits there. So it's kind of gray. You don't see the sky. You don't see anything for a while. And then it's glorious. We don't get white puffy clouds here. Always blue. Always blue. I must admit, I haven't figured out whether or not it is haze or if it's smog, but we do have this hovering stuff that's in the air. And if I had to guess, we're so dry, I would say it's a combination. I would say there's the dust in the air kicked up from all of our activity, just hovering real low. Because after a rain, it's gorgeous. There's nothing. It's gorgeous, deep blue skies. And of course, at night, we have this incredible temperature. Most nights, I get to have the windows open and I'm shivering. It's great. So we open up the house. We almost never put on the air during 3/4 of the year. And it's fabulous. If you live by the ocean, you're actually cold during these summer months at times. You know, we're still 70 degrees over there. So it's got some great weather. I know California is known for great weather. Yeah, it earned its reputation. We aren't Arizona. I just want to say that, okay? I have lots of people that are in Arizona, and it's 112 all the time, and it gets up to 119. That is not us. You can go live there. There's a lot of people who do live year-round, and I used to live in Florida, so I know you just go from air-conditioned space to air-conditioned space, and that's the way it is. But that's not our area. All right, let's talk about utilities, services. We have the typical utilities everybody has, you know, the gas, electric. If you live in Duluth or you live in La Cresta, you're probably on propane. If you live out in wine country, you're probably on propane. And then a tank comes out, it gets rented, you fill it up, and it's usually every 6 months. It serves your family, you cook with it, you heat with it, you do a lot of things, you heat your pool with it. And that's about $600, $700 last time I checked to fill up a tank, and then it's done. The electric costs are pretty even, so to speak. I'm one of the people kicking and screaming. Sorry if I've created anything. I haven't yet made it to solar. And I know I will. I just don't like the way it looks on my roof, in all honesty. So I'm a bad girl. But solar. So let's talk solar for a minute. So there's at least 3 ways that I know to buy solar. So we've got solar where you purchase it outright. And a lot of my clients, they are dead set on purchasing it outright. Now, it's awesome if you can afford it and you want to put out the $30,000 to $60,000 up front. Hey, I'm all for it, right? It's paid off. It's yours, right? Here's the disadvantages to that. Number 1, no warranty. You're not warranted anymore. So let's say that roof starts to leak where they put up the solar. You're on your own. You're on your own. Let's say the power starts to diminish. You're on your own. Let's say you move in 3 years. You just paid that off for the next guy, and what you're going to see on the value of your appraisal is approximately $10,000. The amount of energy you save in 1 year is what you get in value on an appraisal. Just saying. So what's another option? Then there's leasing. So leasing is a pretty good option. It's a set payment. It may go up every year, but it's a tiny amount. They base it on your energy use. They come in, they look at your energy bills. They say, okay, how much energy do you use? How many panels will you need as a result? What will that divide out into 20 years? How many panels? How much per month? And then you'll have a set fee, and they might increase it a certain amount every year. And you can count on that bill. And the highest I've seen in a lease payment for a lot of panels was about $280, maybe $320. And I can tell you, I've had electric bills up as high as $800 a month, and there's 2 of us in the house. Just saying. So that's not a bad deal. And most average $165. That's what most people are paying. The third way to buy solar is with a power purchase agreement. Now, a power purchase agreement is a whole nother ball of wax. They look at your energy usage, and you only pay for what energy you use. So they stick the solar up there. It's owned by the company that installed it. It's warranted by the company who installed it. It's got to perform the way they said it would. And every year, you have an increase of kilowatt cost. So they agreed to so many years at such a price would be the kilowatt cost. And then beyond that, you pay, how many kilowatts did I use this month? I use 600 kilowatts per month, and I'm just guessing. I don't know how much kilowatts I use. And then they charge that kilowatt usage. And so that one, both the lease and the power purchase agreement pass on to someone else when you sell the home. They need to be able to qualify for it, but it's not like a loan. And I missed something that's really critical. So let's pretend you want to own your solar and you take a loan out against your house. That's the worst way I can think of to own this property, to own this solar. And I'll tell you why. I've seen so many folks, they got sold the solar system. I want to own it, absolutely. And 2 years later, they find themselves moving. Now they have a loan. The loan is secured against the house. So now, in addition to moving and moving costs, they've got to get their buyer to qualify for a new loan on the solar plus the house. And most people are only shopping in the price range they can qualify for. So if they don't qualify and they still want that buyer, and the buyer says, I'm not taking on your debt, guess who pays for the solar in advance at close of escrow? Comes out of their proceeds. Yep, the seller. So it's the lousiest way I can think of. And yes, you're making a monthly payment, but we never know what tomorrow brings. So I just wanted to let you know about that. Okay, garbage, I get picked up once a week. I get billed quarterly. It's reasonable, although when I lived in Florida, we had 2 weekly garbage pickups. Not so here, not so in this area. Water, pretty costly. I average in my house, which is a lot of green, about $200 a month. Most of my clients are about $70 to $90 for their regular house. So that's pretty cool. We talked about propane, gas. Gas is pretty low, although we saw a dip up in gas last year. And I was told the reason why it went from $100 to $700 was because of exporting. So in other words, the carrying costs from wherever the gas was mined or whatever they do with gas to transport it to us and then, distribute out to us was so high. So we saw a spike. It was 1 or 2 months. We haven't seen it since. I would like to assume that that was just a one-off. Lastly, let's talk a little bit about resale in our area. So we are seeing a steady climb. Over the COVID years, our homes appreciated 28%, much like the rest of the country. We have enough people moving in. We don't have enough people selling their homes. And as long as we have a lower supply of homes versus what people are buying, in other words, buyers, we will have continued growth in prices. Right now, year to date, half a year, we're looking at 7% increase. 3% is normal. 3% is normal. If you look at historical growth, 3% is normal. So we're more than double growth. And, that's the reason why people are having such a struggle with affordability, because it seems like it's impossible to buy a home because you can't catch up. So for those of you sitting on the sideline and waiting for things to get better, I just got news for you. Picture this. So let's pretend that 80% of our local population is sitting on a 3% refinance that they did, right? And of that 80%, 50% plan to stay. The rest of that wishes they could move, whether it's downsize, cost of keeping up the house, moving out of state, job, whatever. Let's pretend that the rest of that, the 30%, wants to move, right? It doesn't make sense for them to get rid of that house at 3%. So they're holding on to it, maybe renting it, moving anyway, or pulling out equity out of the house and going move. And then one day when they'll sell the house, when the interest rates come down. So those people are stuck in place, and that's contributing to the very low number of houses that are available for sale. So if we have a series of buyers that are qualified and ready and want to, and they're coming, and let me tell you, the buyers are being a lot more picky, rightfully so. You're paying $900,000 for a house that used to be a $700,000. You want it to be right. So they're taking longer to decide. They're being more picky. They're asking for more repairs. And in that case, so you have them coming in and they're bidding against for a good home that needs little work. They're bidding that up still. Okay, there's not 15 offers like there was during COVID, but there are 4 offers. And so we can be selective on the seller side. What's a good offer and what do we want to see in that offer? And we can ask for an as is. There's a lot of things we can do when that happens. But let's say we have a tired home and the tired home is on the market and they want too much for it. Everyone can see that because the pictures are posted. You can see here's a gorgeous home at $880 and here's the tired home at $790, but you need about $100,000 to bring this into view. That $790,000 house is going to sit for a very long time. Now, take the interest rates down. Let's bring the interest rates to 5.5, only 2 points away from the 3.5 that a lot of people have. So now all of a sudden there's more homes in the market and you have more variety. So all the buyers jump back in. Gosh, why it's cheap? I got to get something, right? So now you have more buyers. Hopefully you have more sellers. If you do not have more sellers, we have all those buyers jumping in and nipping at those prices and they climb. So either way, waiting is not good. I'd rather see you try to figure out what you can get into and change up or grow into a next house in a few years when the interest rates change, and then you have equity position. So I do not foresee home prices coming down in the next 3 years. No foreseeable future. Only thing that could do that is an economic crash. And it's not perfect. It's on science, right? An economic crash could do something like that. People lose their jobs. Therefore, it's a change. It happened before. It could happen again. But based on just buy and sell volume and the number of houses available, it is not likely coming to pass here soon. If you have questions, if you want to know more about our area, like or subscribe here. We'd love to help you. Again, I'm Liz with Local Living, Tri-City. Until the next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to Local Living Tri-City. Stay tuned for more insights and stories from Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, and surrounding areas. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend that is passionate about the Tri-City area as you are. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you next episode.